Right now, as you're watching this, the biggest sporting event on the planet is drifting into something no one at FIFA wants to openly admit is slow. Unfolding crisis that's hiding behind the promise of packed stadiums and record-breaking numbers. Because on paper, the 2026 FIFA World Cup is supposed to be unstoppable. 48 teams, 3 host countries, 16 cities, tens of billions in projected revenue, a tournament so large, so commercially powerful, that it was expected to redefine what a World Cup could be. But if you zoom in, if you look past the headlines, past the marketing, past the carefully worded statements, you start to see something else forming underneath. Something quieter, something more fragile, something that looks a lot less like a celebration, and a lot more like a system under strain. Because right now, in late April 2026, the signals coming out of the United States, Canada and Mexico are not the signals of a global event about to peak. They are the signals of something slipping. Hotel blocks being quietly released back into the market. Tickets that were supposed to be impossible to get, still sitting unsold. Cities dialing back their biggest fan experiences before the first match has even been played. And international fans, millions of them hesitating, calculating, and in many cases deciding not to come at all. And the reason this matters is simple. The World Cup doesn't fail all at once. It erodes piece by piece, signal by signal, decision by decision, until one day you look up and the event that was supposed to unite the world feels smaller. Let's go back to the beginning. Because to understand how this is happening, you need to understand what was promised. When FIFA awarded the 2026 tournament to North America, it wasn't just another hosting decision, it was a statement. The United States, alongside Canada and Mexico, was presented as the safest possible bet in global sports. The infrastructure already existed. The stadiums were massive. The logistics were proven. The market was enormous. And the projections reflected that confidence. Over 6 million visiting fans, more than $30 billion in economic impact for the United States alone. A tournament that would surpass every previous World Cup, not just in size, but in profitability, reach, and global influence. It was supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be guaranteed. And now, just weeks before kickoff, that certainty is starting to crack. Let's start with the first fracture, the one that's hardest to hide: hotels. Because hotels don't deal in narratives, they deal in bookings. And bookings tell the truth faster than press releases ever will. Across multiple host cities, including Philadelphia and Mexico City, thousands of previously reserved hotel rooms have been released quietly, but significantly back into the market. In Philadelphia alone, roughly 2,000 rooms out of an initial 10,000 block have been cancelled. That's not a minor adjustment. That's a signal, and it's not isolated. Across all 16 host cities, similar patterns are emerging: blocks shrinking, expectations being revised, and industry leaders using careful language that, when translated, means something very simple. Demand is not where it was supposed to be. In Mexico City, the situation goes even further. Up to 40% of FIFA's reserved hotel inventory has reportedly been cancelled, nearly half at this stage. And here's why that matters more than it sounds. When cancellations happen this close to a global event, there's no time left to recover. The prime booking window is already gone. Travel plans have already been made. Fans who are going to come have already decided. You can put those rooms back on the market. But filling them at anything close to the original price is a different story entirely. And the pricing data confirms it. After an initial surge where hotel rates were expected to skyrocket, some by as much as 300%, we're now seeing the opposite. A drop, a sharp one. In some cases, rates on match days have fallen by over 30%. That's not a correction. That's a reversal. And reversals like that don't happen unless something deeper is going wrong, because this isn't just a pricing issue. This is a demand issue. And demand doesn't collapse for one reason. It collapses when multiple pressures hit at the same time, which is exactly what's happening here. Start with the most visible pressure: cost. Because for many fans around the world, the price of attending this World Cup has crossed a line. Tickets for the final, held at MetLife Stadium, have reached levels approaching $11,000 for a single seat, before flights, before hotels, before food, transport, or anything else. And while that might be manageable for a small slice of high-income fans, it completely disconnects the tournament from the majority of the global audience. Because football is not a niche sport, it is the sport. And its most passionate supporters come from countries where those prices are not just expensive, they're unrealistic. Even matches that should be automatic sellouts are showing cracks. The United States opening game at SoFi Stadium has tens of thousands of seats still available. This isn't a low-profile match. This is the host nation's introduction to the tournament, and it's not full. That alone tells you something has shifted. But cost is only the first layer. The second layer is far more complicated and far more damaging: geopolitics. Because this World Cup isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening in a world where borders are tighter, tensions are higher, and movement is no longer guaranteed. travel restrictions affecting dozens of countries have created a reality where some fans simply cannot attend. Not because they don't want to, but because they are not allowed to. And for others, the barrier isn't a ban, it's a cost. Visa fees rising, security requirements increasing, processes becoming more complex, more uncertain, and more intimidating. For many, especially from football-heavy regions in Africa, South America, and parts of Asia, the calculation becomes simple: too expensive, too complicated, too uncertain, and once that decision is made, it doesn't come back. Then there's the third layer: global instability. Conflicts, rising energy prices, and disrupted travel routes have pushed airfare costs sharply higher. Flights that were already expensive have become significantly more so, and when you combine that with ticket prices, hotel uncertainty, and visa hurdles, the total cost of attending this World Cup moves into a category that most fans simply cannot justify. But even that isn't the full picture, because the fourth layer is psychological. Perception, and perception in global events is everything. Right now, across social media and international coverage, a narrative is spreading that the United States is not an easy place to visit, that entry is uncertain, that scrutiny is high, that the experience may not match the expectation. Whether every part of that perception is accurate doesn't matter, because once people believe it, behavior changes, plans get cancelled, trips get postponed, decisions get reversed. And those changes show up exactly where we're seeing them now: in bookings, in ticket sales, in attendance projections. And then there's the fifth layer: money. Not the money being spent, but the money being pulled back. Budgets for fan festivals, those massive public viewing events that define the World Cup atmosphere, are being reduced or scaled down in multiple cities. Security funding delays are forcing local organizers to adjust plans. And when those public experiences shrink, the entire feel of the tournament shrinks with them, because the World Cup is not just what happens inside the stadium, it's what happens outside, in the streets, in the squares, in the shared moments between people who may never get a ticket but still feel part of something global. When that disappears, something essential disappears with it. Now, to be clear, none of this means the tournament won't happen. It will. Millions will still attend, games will still be played, moments will still be created, and Gianni Infantino will still stand in front of cameras and say everything is on track. Because in one sense, it is. But in another, more important sense, it isn't. Because the question is no longer whether the World Cup will take place. The question is whether it will become what it was supposed to be: the largest, the most unifying, the most globally connected event in sports history. And right now, based on the data, the behavior, and the decisions being made in real time, that version of the World Cup is slipping away. What's replacing it is something more complicated. A tournament shaped not just by football but by politics, economics, and global uncertainty. A tournament that reflects the world as it is, not as it was imagined. And that leads to one final question: when the biggest sporting event on earth becomes too expensive, too restricted, and too uncertain for a large part of the world to attend, who is it actually for?